Hi, I'm Lewis, and I suffer from anxiety and codependency. But you'd never know that, because I constantly smile to make sure you never think anything is wrong. But deep down, I'm actually terrified that you'll hate me if you ever find out just how awful I feel inside and how much I care about making sure that you never know that. That's why I just smile all day, every day, whenever you ask me how I am, even when I'm talking about something awful in my life. Doing that makes my cheeks hurt. So, coming back to something a bit more serious, smiling is the way that we convey that we are fine, that we're okay, that we're happy. But it becomes an issue if you're smiling when you're not fine and you don't feel like you can share that with anybody, because then you're being fake. And in most interactions, other people might not even be able to tell the difference. One of the very first things that my therapist said to me was, Lewis, you smile a lot. Like, you just told me something about how you were feeling very sad, and you were smiling the whole way through it. Don't you think that's a little bit incongruous? And I was shocked, absolutely shocked. It had never occurred to me that I smile so much, or that my smile could be bad or even fake. And it wasn't like I was trying to be disingenuous with my smile either. It's like I genuinely wanted people to be okay if I was talking to them. But that's the issue. I wanted other people to feel okay. I wanted to control how they were feeling and what they were thinking about me or what I was saying when I was interacting with them, rather than just being myself. Because what other people feel or think of me is not my property. I don't know about you, but I actually trained myself how to smile. When I was a emo head teenager, I went through a phase of my head being at an angle that kind of made my smile look a bit creepy, and I really didn't like that. So I sat down with my girlfriend at the time, and she gave me a couple of pointers. Keep your head straight and level. Bite down on the back of your teeth to tense your jawline. Look away and then flash your eyes to sort of refresh your face, but don't do it at the wrong time, otherwise you're like a psychopath. And look, I'm not here to throw shade at people learning how to look nice in photographs. I think it's a brilliant skill to have. But there is a bit of a downside to it, because now my family call me out as having a photo face, because I pretty much look the same in all the photos that get taken of me. Because that's what I trained myself to do. And really think about that. I trained myself how to smile properly. And in my current state, when I was reflecting over that, it set off all sorts of people pleaser alarm bells in my head. Because that's not something that's necessarily healthy to do. Because it's fake. A fake smile isn't for you, it's for the other person. I mean, you could argue that it is for you so that you look the way that you want to in photographs, which is totally fine and totally valid. But also, I expect that there's another part of you, another underlying part that's probably quite large, that wants you to look good so that other people think, they look good, rather than, oh, they look creepy and weird. And can you see how that's not for you? That's trying to control other people. I mean, it is ultimately for you because you want to feel all right, but you're doing the action to try and control what other people feel rather than sorting it yourself and dealing with how you feel about how you look and how you smile. Smile is one of the most beautiful things that you can do. And everybody has a beautiful smile. Your natural smile is wonderful, because it comes from a very genuine place, and you can see that in somebody's face when they give a natural smile, often in a sort of candid way. And a real smile looks very different to one of those fake smiles that you give, like when you're getting your passport taken. So I knew that I had an issue with this when my therapist pointed that out to me. It is wise to often pay attention to what your therapist points out. And so I did. And I noticed, I used my newfound powers of noticing that I had cultivated through therapy, and I realized that she was right. Like, scarily right. I just saw that I was smiling in almost all of my interactions. And what was worse was that I got feedback from other people, or at least I became more aware of feedback that other people were giving me, which was just around me being happy all the time. Other people would be like, "Oh, Lewis, you just smile all the time. It's so nice." And I thought, holy crap, it's true. And it's not even like those smiles were fake per se. Like I wasn't intentionally putting on this fake smile to try and make everybody feel good. But sometimes I was. And sometimes even many of those interactions didn't need that smile. The other person would be totally fine without me grinning like I'm trying to make them feel good. And it was on a totally unconscious level that I believed that I had to smile, otherwise the other person wouldn't feel okay, or that they'd be worried that I wasn't okay, which would be equally as bad. Because if I'm not smiling, something must be wrong, right? Which, is absurd when you really think about it. And so I was very motivated to look into why, and this part of the video will be where I share some of my learnings and some of the solutions that I've found. For me, it was a very classic case of tell me about your family. And when I looked at the family system that I grew up in, I realized that emotions were not very big there, and expressing emotions was also not really a done thing. So I grew up in a family that struggles to hold emotions like anger and sadness. And so I learned not to express those and also not how to regulate myself whenever they did come up for me. Instead, I learned to be fine and to project outwardly that I was fine through the smile. And I took that smile out into the world and out into broader, at least Western society, which also doesn't really have time for those sorts of emotions. So school loved me being a smiling good boy. At university, when I did have interactions with the tutors, we were very heady and intellectual, which was great fun. But again, that didn't leave a lot of room for really getting into the emotional things that I was feeling. And of course, at work, people like it when you smile. It keeps the sort of energy and the morale of the team up. And the day to day interaction of, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm good, how are you? Doesn't leave a lot of room for going into the depth of how I'm actually feeling. There's no room for any other sort of interaction. Except the weather. I'm British. And I realized that it's all superficial. I was so superficial. And I became pretty disenchanted with it. And I became one of those people that wanted like realness and deepness in my conversations all the time. And I got kind of annoyed if that wasn't the case. Because as I saw my own fakeness, I kept seeing it in other people too. And I could tell that they were faking it. And that annoyed me. But notice again, that's got nothing to do with me. That's not my property if other people want to fake and hide their emotions. That's not my property. So now, rather than trying to control people to feel okay, I wanted people to be real and deep with me. But I fell into the same trap, just on the other sort of side of it. Because just like my superficial smile, my disdain for fakeness came from a place of longing for deeper connection, even though the way I went about it wasn't effective or necessarily very healthy. And then also, I realized ultimately, in many cases, it's actually just not necessary or inappropriate to be so deep and emotionally vulnerable. It's like, of course, you should bring your authentic self to work, and it is lovely and helpful with team bonding to talk about how you're doing and what you did on the weekend and that sort of thing. But it's just unnecessary if you're there to work to get into the depth of how you're feeling in the overwhelming majority of situations. I would even go so far as to say it's inappropriate. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having spaces where it's inappropriate to go into a really deep level of emotional depth. And so my frustration at that superficiality of, "Hi, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. How are you?" I let that go. And I became more at peace with that. Because that superficial interaction is actually very important. It's a sort of social lubrication to show that we're playing the same game and that we're on the same team here. And whether you're ready to accept that or not, it's still none of your responsibility if other people want to show up wearing a fake mask. Because that's all it really is, your people-pleasing smile. It's a mask. And when you recognize that it's a mask and you become aware of it and you notice the situations when you do it, you'll notice that your cheeks ache. And you'll notice that you're feeling one thing, but you're outwardly portraying another thing. And you'll feel that disintegrity, which is a word I've just made up, that lack of integrity between yourself and how you're presenting to the world. But you can take that mask off. And you take it off not by doing anything out there, but by going inward. And you can start even from quite a simple place. You can just notice the situations you're doing it. And you can ask yourself, why? Why am I wearing this people-pleasing mask? Who am I trying to hide or protect when I'm wearing this mask? What is this mask actually protecting? Who are you being protected from? And what would happen if I stopped wearing this mask? Just sit with those questions and notice the emotions that come up when you ask that to yourself. I've done a lot of work to stop my people-pleasing smile, and I still fall into it sometimes, especially if I'm especially anxious or I haven't been looking after myself very well. I'm really glad that when I do notice myself doing it, I can often stop. And I feel a little bit like a sourpuss when I'm not smiling so much. I'm not being buoyant and keeping the energy up and smiling. But I don't stop smiling so that other people can or can't feel something else. I've dropped my fake smile for me because it's authentic for me. Because I don't need to hide who I am. I don't need to be fake. And I don't need to try to control other people so that they think or feel a certain way about me. If you enjoyed this video, thank you so much for watching. It would mean a lot to me if you could hit like and subscribe, because it really helps the channel out. I wish you all the best on your healing journey, and I'll see you again soon.